Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wired's live living room sessions. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Jenn Clarke, and I'm from the Caribbean Permaculture Research Institute. CPRI Barbados is pleased to be partnering with Walker's Institute for Regenerative Research, Education and Design, WIRED, to bring you this series powered by the Inter-American Development Bank. Wired's Keisha Farnham and I have been hosting this space for disruptive and innovative conversations focusing on climate change, biodiversity, regenerative agriculture, and renewable energy. You can join in live every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. as we take questions from our audience, or you can watch the replays on our respective Facebook pages, and our sessions are also now being streamed live to Wired's YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe there. Last week in this space, we hosted Veronica Prado and asked the question, will renewable energy ever really transform the Caribbean? And Wired's Keisha chatted with Anate Mills around the question, can a pandemic help the climate crisis? There's a lot to look forward to in the coming weeks, including Dr. Justin Ram on renewable energy and Tracy Fowler on the entertainment sector's contribution to climate resilience. But today we are doing something a little different. I have not one, but three guests joining me to discuss a pivoting moment in their lives when their personal goals aligned with their professional ones, resulting in these three people from across the Caribbean coming together in Barbados at Walker's Reserve to take a permaculture design certificate course. This course is run around the world by certifying permaculture professionals, and while there is a set of standards, each instructor chooses to focus on a different set of skills and principles, which also depend on the bioregion which is taught in. But the common thread running through all of these courses is that it is coined a transformational course. A permaculture design course, for those of you new to the term, is a 10-day or 72-hour course, which covers a broad range of topics, all relating to regeneration, biomimicry, and climate resiliency. Permaculture is a design science. The quickest and most relatable way to explain the course is if you took landscape architecture, building architecture, town planning, and agriculture. You put it all into a blender, which says future proof on it. What you come out with is actually a beautiful permaculture design. Permaculture is a whole systems approach to designing resiliency into your life. Most people come into the course for a particular aspect of it, not knowing fully what they're getting into, but all come out at the other end with new goals for their future and a support group of fellow students who will stand the test of time. We have a photo of our most recent graduating class. I took my first permaculture PDC course, or permaculture design course as we call it, in 2015. And I still chat with my fellow classmates, some of whom I know will be watching this session today. Our three graduates who are joining us are all part of CPRI's most recent graduating class in November 2019. And I'm very excited to bring these fellow permaculturists, Fiona, Nea, and Celia on screen, whom you can see as part of that graduating class right there, briefly.
Hi.
Welcome, everyone. These three ladies from across the Caribbean, these three ladies come from across the Caribbean. We have Fiona Roche, who's the founder of grassroots organization working towards resiliency and biodiversity preservation in Guadeloupe. We have Nea Talbot, who is an organic farmer and an educator from British Virgin Islands. And we have Celia Collymore, who is a home gardener and the senior project manager of Beige Infusion, a fitness lifestyle service. So how did all these three ladies who are on very different paths, come from different islands, come to partake in the same 10-day transformational course? Everyone who's here today, welcome, first of all. How is everybody today?
Pretty good.
Thank you. Very nice to see you all.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
So I'd like to start. I mentioned that the course, it encompasses so many different elements and offers solutions to a wide range of problems. I'd like to start by asking each of you to tell us a little bit more about your background and what was that hook that drew you into taking a permaculture design course in the first place? So what was the key element that drew you to take the course? I believe that we will start maybe with Fiona, if you'd like to go first.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Fiona Roche. I come from Guadeloupe, which is a French island in the Caribbean. So my native language would be French and Creole. My background, I grew up next to the sea, and I've always really liked nature. And so I studied biodiversity, conservation, and ecology. So I got a master's in science in that. I've been traveling around the world quite much, and I ended up going back home like a bit more than a year ago. And I wanted to take that course because I had heard about permaculture like 2 to 3 years ago by a roomie that I had, and I had done a few courses online. But I was really looking for some tropical and stuff, and I was really glad to find that there was like a place that was in the Caribbean that would provide information about this, and also with professionals that have been working on the subject for more than 20 years. So since I have a professional project also about permaculture, I was really wanted to follow this course. So that's about it.
Perfect. Well, that sounds great. Nea, how about you?
Yeah, very similar to Fiona. Lovely to see you all again. I first began learning about permaculture during my university studies. I studied sustainable agriculture and agroecology. And I think it was some of our readings back then, and I read Permaculture by Sepp Holzer. And since then, I've been reading about it, hearing about it. But like Fiona said, it was all very European, Australian, even Pacific focused. And I'm a very hands-on learner. So then I learned about CPRI. And when I saw that they were offering the course, it was based in the Caribbean. It was led by Caribbean teachers. I knew that we could go there and ask the questions that, I needed to ask and get specific knowledge, about our climate, our geography, connected to our culture and our history, that I would be able to take and apply to our little island. It's amazing. Each island in the Caribbean is really unique, but we have kind of this, a lot of shared knowledge that we can learn together from. So our teachers, being from Trinidad and Kenya and being in Trinidad for so long, I just couldn't miss that opportunity. It was, once in a lifetime for me too. And it was also a little birthday present. And it was just the time was right to really take that jump and start really digging into it, because I'd also been working in farming for about 10 years and knew I needed to kind of take a jump to learn more about how to design my farm around it.
Absolutely. So both of you sort of come from a bit of a background of permaculture. You've done quite a bit of research into it and that sort of thing. Celia, you come from a slightly different angle. So I'm really interested to hear why it was that you wanted to take that permaculture design course.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to see all of my colleagues virtually. Permaculture has been in my radar for about the last 2 years. One of my colleagues, who is actually a graduate from PDC, I would have learned a lot just going by her farm and seeing what she was doing. And for the last year, I kept her learning or seeing these things about composting. And I'm like, let me go learn what this composting is. And because I'm in the fitness and wellness world, I do eat a lot of fruits and a lot of vegetables. And for the last 40-something years, I've just been throwing those things in the garbage. And it was like, I need to stop this. How do I use the fruits and the vegetable peels? And PDC, there was a course back in 2018 where you had composting, and I wasn't able to attend. And last year when I saw the email marketing for the PDC course, I'm like, this is it. The fact that this just dropped into my email, it is important that I invest in myself. No time like the present, make it happen, invest in yourself. I always saw myself as having a brown thumb. So it was important for me now to develop a green thumb. So this has been a great, great journey.
That's fantastic. And I'm glad that you brought up investing in yourself, because that's essentially what the next question I'd like to segue into is about. It's about our personal goals. So as much as, farming might be viewed as a profession, permaculture has a lifestyle aspect to it. And some of our personal goals is what draws us to taking a PDC. It's what drew me to taking a PDC in the first place. I had no aspirations of owning my own farm, that's for sure, not when I took my first PDC. So my next question for each of you is, what impact has permaculture had on your personal life and the communities that surround you, so your families and your close-knit communities? Maybe we will go the opposite way this time. So we'll actually start back with Celia.
Yes, permaculture has had a major impact on me. And I can say, because I am on the health and fitness and wellness journey, it was important to look at my life very holistically. And eating properly, getting my exercise, focusing on my mental health, and taking the course, that really showed it was more than just agriculture. You know, it's a social movement. It's people going on a journey of becoming better human beings. So if we're taking care of ourselves, we also need to take care of nature and everything that's around me. So for me, it was tapping in, going a little deeper on the inside, and kind of figuring out who I am, what I want, how I want to see my future, what that's going to look like in the future. And permaculture was like one of the last things I needed to include, because look, my hair is natural now. That was another decision in terms of the health and wellness lifestyle, no chemicals, right? So slowly and surely, you know, as I continue to learn more about myself and as I continue to grow, it's important to add those elements that really allow me to live holistically and be and live in more optimal health and wellness.
Absolutely, that's great. Nea, how about you?
Yeah, so the impact of the PDC and permaculture overall on my personal life and the communities around you, I think like a phrase that you hear a lot within permaculture is that it gives you a lens through which to see the world. And that just really helped me because, you know, you're going through your life, you're looking at your work, you're looking at your family, you're looking at your home, you're looking at your hobbies, and you're just, you know, you're trying to make them all work. But then it's often a little bit separate. So bringing that all together and finding this lens that you can connect them all and find similarities between them all. And like in permaculture, you have the zone 1, zone 0, zone 1, your home, out to zone 5, which is, you know, the forest at the edge of your property. That also applies to relationships and the social permaculture aspect, which is one thing that I really was drawn to doing the course to learn more about. So finding this way that could help me structure and organize, you know, not just my thoughts, but my work and my education and my outreach in a way that I was connecting all the dots, you know, from the finer parts of my work to the broader concepts, and a way to organize them, and including everything, making sure I wasn't missing any part of an equation, and understanding functions and systems and how they interact together. So it's just made things more streamlined for me. You know, I have a kind of an organized, rational mind, as much as I try to. And then through the permaculture lens, it just connected to me in a way that I could frame that in a way where I wasn't diminishing or overpowering anything. You know, the human and the environmental, the living and the non-living, were all balanced. And how do you incorporate those all with equal value was really meaningful to me. And now I'm able to kind of translate onto my life in every aspect so that it feels a bit more, like I said, streamlined.
Great. You hit all those key words that we teach in permaculture, that's for sure.
I've reviewed my notes.
So Fiona, how about you? How has taking the course changed your personal life and the community surrounding it?
Well, I would say that what was interesting about the course is, as Nea said it's that it gives you a holistic approach, and it's like everything I do is like connected. And I really liked about permaculture that there is a side where you take care for the earth, but there's also the aspect where you learn or you talk about caring for human beings. And the very interesting thing about it is that it's possible to connect everything as a whole, and not to like having nature separated, but like trying to work as a whole. And so I wouldn't say like permaculture is the answer, but I would say that it's one answer in a way. If you're looking for more autonomy, if you're looking for doing something that makes sense, and in every step of your life, of your day, you can actually use it, and like in a practical way. I'm like always wondering, no, this thing, I'm not gonna throw it away. I'm gonna try to reuse it in another system. So that's permaculture, but you don't have to call it that. But that's exactly what it is. If I have to go outside the house and go meet people, I would always be, okay, I'm going that far. Who's on the way? I can do this, I can do that. So I'm trying to optimize everything. And so I'm guessing that's one way it impacted me. And I think I probably talk a little bit too much about it to my surroundings, and they can be annoyed of it sometimes. But yeah, that's a really interesting experience. I mean, taking a PDC. So I would recommend it to anyone.
Great, good to hear.
Yeah, no problem.
So we've all touched on it a little bit. Permaculture is definitely a whole systems approach. And as Nea mentioned, looking at everything through a lens is really what the course is trying to teach. It is taking into account your personal life, your work goals, your home environment, the environment surrounding you at your home being your local community, your community at work, your island, if you come from an island, which all of us do. But we might be speaking to people who do not come from an island. So your broader community as well. So it's taking into account all of those things. And as we all sort of mentioned, it gives you that lens to look through, and it broadens your opportunities. So once you start to look at your whole system, your whole life, your whole purpose, the drive behind everything that you do, your work goals come into it as well. So it may not have been something which was your career path. Permaculture may not have been involved in that at all. But once you do take the course and you start to look at something through that lens and as a whole system, it's sort of impossible to not bring it into your work life. So I know Nea and Fiona, you already started on a path that involved that. And Celia, you have brought that in as an aspect of what you're doing in your work life as well. So my next question is about, how did the PDC itself fuel your professional passion? What are the changes that you would have made within your profession, even if you were working in that field to begin with? And sort of what fires did it light? What changes did you make within your own work? Let's start with Nea this time, actually.
Yeah, as you're speaking about that, I'm just running so many things through my mind about how, what it brought to my work, because like I said, I've been in farming for just over 10 years now, and I knew about permaculture, but there's just so much going on in the agricultural world, particularly. And taking the course, though, it really made me see, like, wow, I've been doing this, but I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know, I wasn't making all the connections that I needed to be making. So taking the PDC just really gave me more of a specific drive and a focus, and it helped me structure it so that I'm actually making an impact and, creating efficiency in my work. And it just highlighted to me like the layers of human and environmental relationships, how we're interacting, and how I can be a part of that, how I can share that in my community with real, efficacy. How am I making an impact, not just on my farm with the plants I'm working with? How can I create a better natural system? But how am I creating healthier relationships and, helping the children that I work with in the schools to work together and to engage in the environment? And it really just gave me a better feeling, because we're called Full Belly Farm. And when you hear the word farm, you think, okay, business, farming, food production. But it's more than that, and how Earl, one of our teachers, calls his Wasamaki ecosystems. I was like, this is a guy who, I can learn from, because he's running a farm, but it's an ecosystem. So it just kind of focused that for me and gave me an understanding, like, okay, I'm on this right path. My work is about growing food and building better communities. And how do I really bring that together to empower, the BVI to eat well, live well. And as Fiona says, autonomy is really important, and sovereignty. So it was just really just focused me, gave me that foundation to build off of to become more efficient in what I'm doing and make more of an impact.
Perfect. Celia, how about you? How has taking the PDC fueled your professional passion?
It's been excellent, actually. So you know that I plan events around the island for locals and visitors. So mountain biking, hiking, caving. So I always am looking to spot new opportunities. And going into the PDC world, actually taking the session, going into a new space. You know, this is a space that I would want people to go in and experience, and not only see it and view it and say this is a beautiful space, but also learn about permaculture. And then add on the healthy element of it in terms of consuming food from the land. So it's kind of giving you the experience of exercise. You're also educating yourself, and you actually get to consume food that comes from the land. So for me, it's really about how can I continuously educate my community? How can I get them to not only think about buying healthy food, but also growing their own food and finding different ways to use their food in their day-to-day life. So it's definitely been a great experience. And the beauty about what I am doing too is because I'm sharing a lot with my community. Now you're seeing people doing their own composting. People are sending me pictures and videos of what they're doing. People are telling me about the monkey issues that they're having, not that they're growing their plants. So it's been definitely a sharing community where you're sharing, but you're also not only talking about the beauty and the benefits of permaculture, but also some of the challenges that we're experiencing, and how do we now come up with solutions to fix some of these problems at home.
That's great. I really do enjoy how you've created a full circle loop there, which is definitely a permaculture concept where you bring people right back around in the beginning through to eating and then regrowing and things like that. So Fiona, how would you say that this course has fueled your professional passion? We all know that you have a lot of passion. So
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Well, it's actually given me tools, I would say, tools, and in order to set everything together, because the project of Rezilyans is to work on protecting nature and sustainable regenerative practices. And we are trying to set up this eco place like farm where people are able to gather, come exchange, learn, think about a new world, and it's still in the process, but it definitely gave me tools in the way of how to do it and the different steps on doing it like the more optimized way. And also I would say that it also teaches you to take more time to look at things. And because in permaculture there's like you have to look at things for like 80% of the job is like observation. So looking at how nature works, what plants grow where. This is interesting because you can apply it to plants, but you can also apply it to human beings. So what are the different invisible factors that are actually impacting my system? And if you take the time to look at it and integrate these elements and factors as a whole in your project, I think you probably plan it better and are more aware of how to handle things, how to handle relations with your neighbors, how to handle the community surrounding your project. And so maybe taking more time, slowing down a bit, because I'm passionate. But the PDC was actually very soon, so I'm not able yet to make a living out of it, but eventually that would be actually interesting to be able to have a job that is also meaningful in terms of interaction with human beings, interactions with nature and stuff. So I believe that is possible with permaculture.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And that's that. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about too, is just the way that the world is changing. The world was changing prior to COVID. Climate change was definitely a big contributing factor. And COVID has sort of drawn a line in the sand for a lot of businesses and a lot of professions out there. Going forward, this is one of those things that is useful. This is something everybody's trying to get into farming at the moment. Everybody's trying to grow a little bit at home. Food security is definitely a big issue, and we are all feeling it, especially on our small islands. So as people are sort of pivoting in this moment, it is a great idea to look at permaculture or any sort of a profession along those lines as a step into the door. A PDC, which is the course that you guys all took, is really the first step in establishing what that is. But a PDC encompasses so much. There's so many different skills that are taught and different lines of work that can come out of it. I mean, you could be anything from a permaculture design instructor. You can run your own farm. There is work in climate change. There's work in renewable energy. There's work in designing water systems, farming fish, farming animal husbandry. I mean, the list is so incredibly long. And really one of the first steps to figure out where you would be going in that sort of a line is a permaculture design certificate course, which it is a certificate course as well. And you can all now call yourselves permaculturists, permaculturalists because of it. So my next question, I have a question for each of you actually. It's along the lines of why is this important? And I've sort of touched base on why it's important for us in developing a profession, in pivoting in this moment to develop a new line of work perhaps. But I've got a question for each of you, and I think what we'll do is we'll start with Nea. So Nea, what I would like to know from you is why do you think it's important that youth should be engaged in permaculture activities, and why should educators promote permaculture type activities as well, as an educator yourself?
Yeah, why is this important? I think we've touched on it quite a few times before. Permaculture brings together humans and the environment. With everything that we're facing today, you know, the pandemic, climate change, social issues, permaculture can give us a way to navigate through these difficult times. It's a really hopeful practice, and it provides real solutions and actions that you can take, you know, to repair land and to repair relationships. And I think that's just so important for people of any age. So as an educator, I work with children through the primary years mainly. And as educators, we know like those early years are foundational to education. But I feel very privileged to be able to work in education outside of a classroom, because children really learn when they're hands-on, when they are practicing what we're talking about. They are not just listening, where they're absorbing and assimilating. And so we go outside and we compost and we plant seeds and we harvest, but we actually spend a lot of time, you know, doing relationship activities, relationship building just between the students, you know, and between students and bugs and between students and plants. So how are we interacting and engaging with each other and the living world and the non-living world? So it gives children a foundation to build upon throughout their lives. We're teaching life skills, how to grow food. We're exploring diet and nutrition. We are creating art, and I have them do rain dances, and we're doing math and science and language. It's very truly interdisciplinary, and that gives a great foundation to teach that, you know, to teach lifelong learners. Education happens everywhere at all times, and you can always be a learner. It's just also really important to continue connections to nature. With children, when they go into a classroom, you often kind of get separated, and you start to separate the two. Like, I'm a student in a classroom, and when I go outside, I play, and that's not learning. But that's not true. You know, it's all learning, and it's about how do we interact and understand that we are stewards of our environment. And I believe you really only practice that if you intrinsically understand it, and if you have that connection that we are, you know, I love the permaculture ethics, you know, people care, earth care, people care, fair share. So teaching children that, you know, we are all equal, everything can be in balance. So what are the structures and the practices and the strategies we can use in our home, in our gardens, to maintain that? And then many of you may know, like, the British Virgin Islands was one of the many islands affected by the hurricanes in 2017. We were particularly affected by Hurricane Irma. which is when I began this work with the school gardens. And that was really powerful to give a safe place, you know, to create a place of beauty for the children where they were, you know, producing a yield that they could share, they were contributing. And then also feeling a little less powerless in the face of things greater than them. So permaculture can provide this framework. Okay, there are forces greater than us. What is our role in them? How do we perform in the face of all the adversarial effects that we are facing, whether climate or human? So permaculture and education, like I've said before, it's social permaculture, it's land practices, it's everything combined. So starting this within your classroom, within your garden, with your children at home, it just creates this feeling of capability of action that we, you know, no matter your age, you can create change and you can do something to make your space better. And that you are, you know, children are able to discover their own strengths. You know, maybe it's not math, maybe it's in the garden. So maybe it's math in the garden, you know, so it's just a beautiful way to bring together so many different strengths, so many different areas of interest for people of all ages. I could go on, but I might, because there's just so much, you know, I believe it connects with the instinctual connection of humans to nature. Mm-hmm. The more we try to maintain that from the young ages, we try to facilitate it and improve it and strengthen that bond rather than separate it, which is often what happens. Then, you know, our young people grow into adults who are more capable of facing these challenges and coming up with solutions that are practical, effective, and fair for all.
Absolutely. It's one of the core things that permaculture teaches and what CPRI believes in too is just resiliency, and this is what you're talking about is breeding a culture of resiliency through our youth and teaching that as part of their entire schooling going all the way up. Nature should not be separate than school. It should not be two entirely different things, and that's the whole systems approach as well. Thank you, Nea. That was really, really well said. Fiona, we have a question for you now, which would be, why do you think that communities should engage in permaculture education? So when I say that, I do mean as a community as a whole, why would it be important for groups of people who live in the same area or who work in the same area? That's type of thing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bounce on what Nea said about we live on islands where we are suffering from hurricanes, climate change. We are quite vulnerable as really small islands. And I believe that it's easier to reach food sovereignty and food autonomy while you actually try to work together. And it's also, you are stronger when you work as a community regarding resiliency, because everybody, I mean, when you add everyone together, it's like we're also a little ecosystem, and everyone has their different skills, knowledges, and can bring different elements to the ecosystem and bring it to resiliency and make it work at hard times. And for example, when there are hurricanes and everything is being destroyed, I mean, people have to work together and stick together and try to build the land and the community and the food again. So I would think that if communities learn about permaculture and the different tools of way of living and how to select your seeds, how to preserve your seeds, how to grow your food, we are stronger. There is like this phrase, this sentence that says, when you're alone, you go quick, but when you're together, when you're many, you go further. And I believe that we should try to all learn how to work as communities and help out each other and everything. And this is actually a different answer than what I had thought about, but then this all works out still.
Absolutely. The community aspect of permaculture and what CPRI is trying to build as well. So we work with a number of different community partners, and we are engaging with our past PDC students and people who have taken even short courses with CPRI previously. The goal is to incorporate everyone, to keep everyone coming back and in the loop, and to create that sense of community where everybody has a space that they can ask a question, bounce ideas off of, grow and learn from as well. So that is the community aspect is a huge part of permaculture and what CPRI is trying to do in Barbados and throughout the Caribbean as well.
And as I said, every different human being has a skill, different skills. So absolutely. I could be growing eggs and chickens, and my neighbor could have yams or whatever. And if every one of us grows something and is skilled in it, we can actually share. One human being cannot have the entire knowledge of everything. So
absolutely, you don't need to have all of the skills. Perfect. So Celia, going on a healthy lifestyle train of thought, why do you think that people should engage in permaculture education to promote that healthier lifestyle?
Yes, so I think it's important from a food and nutrition perspective, where you are thinking about your whole immune system. The healthier we eat, the more it's going to heal our body. So it's thinking about the food that you're putting into your body. When we think about COVID now and COVID hitting Barbados, that was the big thing. Food, you need to eat properly, you need to keep your immune system strong. So educating people around food and nutrition, educating yourself around food and nutrition by going online, reading up on what you're putting in your body, what those benefits of those foods are. So let me use myself for an example. At home now, we are growing different fruits and vegetables, different herbs. And one of them that I really truly enjoy now is aloe. Yes, and I just want to buy as much aloe as I can or plant as much aloe as I can because it has a lot of health benefits in terms of the antioxidants, detoxing, really flushing out your system. So when we know about, it's not just planting any food, but planting foods that you know can benefit you, benefit your body. So me taking the permaculture course and learning about the different principles of permaculture, food and nutrition was important to me in terms of not only just planting food, but knowing the foods, knowing the benefits of the food, and how I can now incorporate them into my day-to-day meals, right? So it isn't about diet, it's more about nutrition. How are you going to nourish your body? And then secondly, when you look at permaculture from a healthy lifestyle perspective, let's go outdoors. I love working out outdoors. I love going on adventures outdoors. When we do our hikes, it isn't just for excitement. It isn't just for entertainment. It's also for education. So when you're in between those trees and those palms and seeing all of these herbs, we try to work with suppliers who are educated in the outdoors in terms of knowing the benefits of the different plants and stuff that we have around us. So it isn't just being out in nature, but being able to say, wow, that's Hershey bush. I heard that's really good for diabetes. I'm going to take that. That's blue vervain. I heard this is very good for depression. So knowing what is in and around you, it allows you to really appreciate nature, really appreciate the plants of the earth and how it can definitely make us feel better about ourselves. And another thing that I am learning to do more is as well as reusing stuff that I am planting. So one of the herbs that I really honestly love is sweet basil.
Ah.
I use that sweet basil and I put it right back down into the earth and then it regrows. Right? So when you think that it's just a stalk or a stem, you can definitely reuse some of the plants. So doing your research, going online, finding out how you can reuse your herbs, how you can use some of your fruits and your vegetables. Don't think that because you just finished with an onion peel, that's it. How do you use the roots and plant it in the water? So this journey has been very awesome for me, where I am educating myself. It's never over. The more fruits and vegetables we get at home, the more I'm going to go on YouTube, the more I'm going to go on Google and do my research. So it's also about educating yourself about what you're buying, what you're planting, how you're consuming it, and what the benefits are. And one point that I want to mention, and I'm not sure how many of you know, right now in Barbados, 1 in 3 children are obese and overweight. And as you know, many of our children, they might not necessarily love eating a lot of vegetables, but if you can make the food fun, if you can make it colorful, if you can make it tasty with different herbs and stuff, you'll be surprised how children will definitely buy into it. So it's really about just getting creative with the food, making it tasty, and really encouraging our children to eat healthy and educating them about the benefits to their body. So permaculture education with healthy lifestyles is paramount here in Barbados. The World Health Organization is also stating that Barbados has a 1% chance, 1% chance in beating non-communicable diseases. We have a tough time ahead of us, and I think that as each of us individually make decisions about eating more whole, eating more holistic, taking care of our bodies and our minds and our spirits, I think we will be on a better track to proving the WHO wrong. But the only way that can happen is if we individually make choices, better eating habits, taking care of ourselves holistically, body, mind, and spirit.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So on that train of thought too, CPRI works quite closely with Slow Food Barbados, which essentially is exactly everything that you're talking about. So Slow Food Barbados promotes good, clean, and fair food for all. Closing that loop as well, from the farmer through to the table, so farm to fork. And encouraging children, adults, everyone to engage in a local food system, which is grown clean and with fair prices for farmers, obviously. So we do work quite closely with a number of different organizations. Slow Food Barbados is one of them. And our courses are obviously held at Walker's Reserve, which is Wired's permaculture regeneration site out in St. Andrew in Barbados. A lovely place that you guys have all visited. We just, in case anybody's just joining us in, actually, just joining in with us, we have 3 fellow permaculturists here, Celia Collymore, Nea Talbot, and Fiona Roche. We're discussing how this life-changing course that we all took through CPRI Barbados at Walker's Reserve in St. Andrew changed us. How has it impacted us both professionally and personally? And we are also taking questions live from the audience. So if anybody who's watching has questions for any of these ladies, you can post them below the discussion on Facebook or on Wired's YouTube channel, where we're also streaming live. And we'll be ready for questions in just a few minutes. Before we get there, we have a photo, I believe, photo number 1 of our full class, the graduating class at Walker's Reserve on the sand dunes. So if we can have that photo come up. There we all are. So this is on the last day of your course, actually. And I just wanted to put that up there so that people can see, well, one, the type of system that we are engaging in some regeneration for out at Walker's Reserve. This is previously it was a sand dune, a silica sand mine quarry, which is being regenerated using permaculture principles and a whole systems approach. And on our last day of our course, which was fully taught at Walker's Reserve, we planted some trees out on the sand dune. So this is our photo of planting those trees. The group that developed during that 10 days, it seems like a short time, but the atmosphere, and I mentioned before Fiona's passion. Fiona is one of those people with a lot of life. But the group as a whole became very much a family. I know that you all still, and myself as well, all still engage in conversations. We have a WhatsApp group. We still bounce ideas back and forth, and we've been talking about what each person is doing, that sort of thing. And I feel really lucky that you all were willing to join us today and be part of this group. And in mentioning your passion too, we will make sure that we are posting in the discussion all of the links to all of the things that you ladies do. because each of you individually has a number of different things that you do. You have Facebook pages, and you certainly have very good social media presence. Each of you post in a very different way, but you are passionate in your own way about your own things. And they're very, I would say the three of yours, as well as our instructor, Earl Rahman Narona from Wasmaki Ecosystems in Trinidad, has very interesting things to follow and social media to engage with. So we will make sure that all of those links are posted in our discussion, that everybody can follow along and see the types of things that you're doing and also be inspired themselves. So I have one more question before we go to a couple of questions from our audience. We do so many things during the course. Some of them are a lot more fun than others. We definitely do hands-on things as well as presentation type moments. And what I'm wondering from each of you is, what were some of the most memorable experiences that you had during the course? What were some of those take-home things that you're like, I'll never forget doing that? If we can start with maybe Fiona.
I knew it. Okay, great. On the funny side, I would say I really enjoyed making the rocket stove using earth, natural building. Mm-hmm. It was really funny. We all get muddy, and it was interesting. And in 2 hours, we actually built the thing, and I really loved it. And on the more serious note, I would say that the social aspect of the course was actually very interesting, because everyone was really different, with very different backgrounds, and we all learned from each other. And every day, everybody was learning new things and sharing them. And it was interesting to see how everybody was impacted. And for those who had never heard or got an interest in biodiversity or regenerative projects, it was like really enlightening to see them like, wow, this is insane. And it was really interesting. And still on the social aspect of it, we got to share also deep moments, either with the instructors or other people who took the course, because there were also sad moments at times, and we all stuck together. So it was really, really deep, I would say. Yeah.
Excellent. What about you, Nea? What was some of your most memorable experiences?
There were so many, but so many lovely times, and I would like to echo what Fiona said. And it was exactly kind of what I came to this course hoping to find, was a group of people within the Caribbean that we can create a network with. So it was forming a new community that has really broadened, my ability to connect with other islands, to people from different backgrounds. Fiona's right, we were all from very different backgrounds, and it was amazing for us to just find this place where we could openly share, openly learn, and take away the knowledge and the practices and apply it in so many different ways. It was also really memorable and impactful to attend this course and do all of this learning at Walker's, which is where they are regenerating the old sand quarry. To see that in 5 years, the difference that permaculture practices have created from kind of a degenerated landscape to now a food forest in such a short amount of time really just gave me hope that, okay, if this can be done here, then it can be done, just about anywhere. And starting from any sort of situation, we can move to regenerate land, and we can regenerate our relationships. And just, building up a wider community, a Caribbean community, and seeing regeneration in action. I won't go into the more finer points of our memorable moments. Dancing in the mud was really good. And it was just a lot of fun and very eye-opening and impactful. And, yeah.
Perfect. And Celia, what were your most memorable experiences?
There were many memorable experiences, and every single day I look forward to going to the PDC course. And I can say to you, Fiona was definitely the life of the party. So it was always exciting to see her in action and actually pull from her energy. And that's one thing I can say about the PDC course. It seemed like everybody was on a journey of just becoming better and doing better. And that was good energy for me as I experienced and learned on the journey. And one thing I can say, and all of you that are on the live would know from the PDC group, at that point, it was also a very trying time where my aunt, who raised me from 2 weeks old, was in the hospital. It was like my first day I went to PDC. The second day she had a stroke, and that was really tough. But I knew that she would want me because weeks earlier I was telling her about the course, and I know that she would have wanted me to be there. And I just appreciate the love from every single person that would just check in with me to make sure I'm okay. And even though it was a tough time, I knew I needed this information. I knew I needed to learn. And more, it also brought home the idea of eating well and taking care of yourself and just trying to keep those NCDs at bay. So if there was anything that I can say that has been the most memorable is the community, the network that I have gained from being around everyone, and the fact that we can still connect with each other. You know me, I'm always posting pictures and videos. Nea is very good. Like, what is this? Nea, can you help? And Nea has been very impactful too in terms of her leadership when we did the end of the project, the end of the PDC project. And Nea really stepped up. And I really learned a lot from her as well, because I went into the space not knowing. And it was important to learn from people who've been in the game for a very long time. So everyone that's here has definitely impacted me. Thank you, Jenn. Thank you, Jenn, for being flexible. And one thing I can say is CPRI, they work with you. It isn't just about the money. They work with you. If you have any issues, if you think that you can't pay right away, they have payment plans. They have different options to help you on the journey. And I can definitely say that CPRI, Jenn, has been very helpful in that respect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our goal is to spread the knowledge around. So we do offer the PDC course as a full 10-day course, which each of you took. And we do offer that as individual modules as well. We obviously don't have any in-person courses going at the moment, but in the very near future, we hope to have some options rolled out for all of our new students. Permaculture, our mission is really to spread the word, to make sure that as many people learn about an aspect or the whole course as possible. So we definitely have options available for a variety of different reasons and for a variety of different people in different situations. So you may not be a farmer, you may just have a home, you might not even own the home that you're in. There's ways that people can use permaculture in all those different aspects, whether it's professional, just personal, whether you're looking for a new business, to change your business. And there's definitely aspects of social permaculture as well, which can be applied to any business which is not even remotely farming related. Permaculture is not just about farming. So we do have 2 questions from our audience that are lined up for us that we just want to get to a couple of them before we end. You ladies have been so great with all of your answers, and we have so much to talk about. I think we could keep going for 3 hours, but we do want to give the audience a chance to ask some questions. So if we can have our first question from the audience up. This question is coming into us from our YouTube listener. Did you ladies experience any challenges when you tried to translate your learnings into real life, and how did you overcome them? That's a great question, actually. Maybe cite one example each. Ooh, so we're going to go to each person for this question. Can you give us an example of a challenging way that you had to figure out how to apply permaculture in a real life situation? Let's go to Celia.
Challenging. Definitely, we were very good at writing notes. So one thing I can say to you is, even if I didn't remember, it was always very important to go back to my notes from class. There were also moments, though, that even though I'm not remembering my notes, if I'm out in the garden, Oh, shoot. Yes, I remember this from class. So a lot of what we would have learned, I was then able to apply. But right now, at this moment, there weren't a lot of challenges. It's just me kind of remembering the things that I would have learned and being able to apply them into my day-to-day.
Perfect. Great. Fiona, how about you?
I'm still thinking about the question.
Still think that's okay. Nea, do you have something off the top of your mind? Yeah?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nea.
I would actually flip that question, that the course actually helped me find solutions to challenges that I'd been facing. So things that challenges on my farm that I hadn't really known how to achieve, the course gave me the answers because it was very Caribbean specific. But to kind of answer the question as well, I guess one of the challenges that I faced was the water harvesting course. The part of that course was dealing with water management, simply because of my context of my property and how am I harvesting water. We don't have fresh water here on my island. So how am I harvesting, storing, sinking water into my land is something that I was completely clueless about before. Now I have the knowledge, the practices, and the strategies, and it's working through putting that into practice, but having the community through the course that we've built to refer back to for further support, and that's been really amazing.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that Earl Rahman Narona from Wasamaki Ecosystems in Trinidad, who taught the course, that's one of the things he always says. So the problem is the solution, which is what you began talking about too as well. So that you might find that you have a lot of problems around your property, but each one of those can be used in a different way. It's about looking at it through that lens again. So looking at your problems through a different lens to use them as a solution in a different light. Sorry, something else to say?
Just to follow up on that, he also spoke about there's a problem, then it's usually something within the system that's out of balance.
Right.
So finding that balance, which was a really helpful way for me to look at issues now. Okay, I'm looking at what's out of balance.
Right. Great. Fiona?
I would bounce again on that the problem is the solution thing, because currently I have an issue with wild chickens that come and just destroy everything on my beds. And I'm actually starting to think either I'm going to kind of try to raise them or I'm actually going to try to eat them. Well, I haven't done it yet, but it's in the corner of my mind.
That's great. So I'm going to push so we can just get one more question in from our audience. If we can have our next question up. What advice would you give to a recent graduate with a science-based degree who wants to get involved in building the mitigation and sustainable development needed to stem climate change in the Caribbean, but may not know where to start? So I'll let you guys put your hands up if you have an answer to this question. So he's just looking for an advice of where does somebody with a degree get started when they're first out? Anybody with some advice? Nea?
That sounds like a Nea question.
Fiona has the science degree.
I do.
That's an amazing question. And one thing that I will just push, because it's something that helped me find my footing, is looking for work with a nonprofit. I have spent several years now working with a nonprofit doing the school gardens, and that helped me not only work within my field in a cause that I believed in, but it helped me meet people who are also working within that field. So if you have a science-based degree and you're interested in climate change, is there a nonprofit or a private public organization or any place where you can start working with, and then you'll meet more people and try to, build your network and your community within that sphere of your interest and your professional, expertise there. That's just kind of how I was able to find my footing and continue on this path, if that helps.
That's great. So just get your feet on the ground, get some hands-on experience. Usually you will meet the key players in the area in that way. Sorry,
we're on islands, so it's small. I was going to say the same, not all that well said, but I was going to say network is also an answer, because sometimes when you look at the world in this way, you feel like you're very lonely because you feel different. But then when you do a PDC or you go meet other people, you realize that you're not that strange and that other people are also trying to make an impact on their small, tiny islands with whatever resources they have. So I would say, yeah, interact as much as possible with people who have knowledge. Older people as well have a lot of knowledge, even if it's not like science written, but they have a lot of to teach. So yeah, try either to work with a nonprofit or talk to your school teachers or talk to your grandparents on how they do things, and just go step by step. That's a permaculture advice. Slow, start slow, start
Slow
small,
steps.
start small. Yes.
Well, I just want to thank you, ladies, so much for taking the time today to speak to us about the course that you took. You all are doing really great things in your various lines of work, in your various islands, and I really want to thank you for coming out here today and talking to all of us. We've had a great time. I'll leave you with, I have one last photo that we'll just put up here, just to leave you guys with a call to action. So this is Fiona having planted her tree out at Walker's Reserve. Her sign from Plant Like a Rock Star comes from the One Tree for Every Bajan program, which we engaged with to plant the trees out at Walker's Reserve on our last day of our PDC. If what CPRI is trying to promote is just a little bit of start somewhere. Start with a course, start by planting like a rock star, do something or make some small movement, start tiny in some way at home to make some changes and make a movement towards a bit more climate resilient lifestyle. Permaculture teaches so many different things. It's really important to, as Fiona just mentioned, start small and start somewhere. Thank you so much to all of our ladies for coming, and thank you to everybody for listening. On Thursday, June 4th at 1 p.m., Wired's Keisha will be talking to Dr. Justin Ram about the role that renewable energy can play in reducing economic vulnerability and diversifying our economies. And next week, we will segue into how the orange industry can build climate resiliency with Tracy Fowler. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Please continue to join in. Thanks.